una conexión internacional con uno de los emprendedores más destacados del mundo. De seguro muchos hemos estado en locales que son su legado. Para dar inicio a este espacio, recibimos a Nicolás Fuensalida, cofundador de Políglota.
Hola, hola, ¿cómo están? ¿Cómo está Concepción?
Bien.
¿Bien? Seth, can you hear me over there?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Can you? We're gonna have a live English streaming conversation with Seth. You can see me over there. Y van a poder ver aquí subtítulos automáticos en español para que puedan seguir la conversación los que aún no han aprendido a hablar inglés. Para eso, obviamente, hay alguna alternativa en el mercado como Políglota. Ojalá que para la próxima todos estemos hablando inglés y seamos un país bilingüe. Okay, now we're going to switch to English to present, and I'm going to ask the audience to be a big applause for Seth Siegl, who is connected from Seattle. Please welcome Seth. Big applause. Thank you for being here, Seth. So, Seth, warming up. Let me start with something you hear as well, right?
Beautifully.
Okay, so Jerry Seinfeld once said that coffee is the most important part of a human's life. It's like, he said that when we die, whatever comes next, we might be there and say, that was good coffee. Okay, so I want to start with your take on coffee for yourself. How's your morning coffee routine in your house? How do you start the day?
Nick, I'm really happy to be here at this event, and I really appreciate all the effort that's gone into making this possible. The answer to your question is right here. This is how I start my day.
Perfect. And that's espresso or filtered?
Yeah, I'm a guy who drinks espresso, and I've been doing that for many, many years. It's just a great taste to me. I enjoy making it. I have an espresso machine in my office and home. And whenever I travel or go out into the city of Seattle,
you buy
specialty on my mind. And also, for me, Nick, it's the experience of the coffee, not just the coffee.
I get it, yeah, absolutely. And making it, grind it in your house, buying specialty coffee.
Or if you're in a coffee bar, the experience of talking to the barista and enjoying the other people that are there, it's not just what's in the cup.
Perfect. Seth, so let me go forward. When we started Políglota, we used Starbucks stores across Latin America as our first kind of classroom. As you know, many people maybe know here, we gathered people in coffee shops like Starbucks, and we didn't ask for permission. We just showed up over there. A teacher would show up, they would put like something, a logotype in the table, and that was our way of kind of hacking the stores. So I'm curious, how did you and your co-founders hacked your early days? What was the things that you kind of started with?
At the time we started Starbucks Coffee, there really was no coffee industry in the United States. Mm-hmm. Everybody drank the kind of terrible coffee that you bought in supermarkets at that time. It came in cans, vacuum sealed cans. It was terrible stuff. And we got interested in the idea of starting a coffee company. And gradually, we moved into it. But, we didn't know anything about coffee other than drinking it and enjoying it and then, you know, reading a little bit about it. There was no internet, for instance. You didn't do research on the internet. So we decided to start our company. It was something that we were not very well equipped to do, frankly. We didn't have enough money and we didn't have enough expertise. And we solved both of those problems. For expertise, we found a mentor. And he wasn't in Seattle, he was in San Francisco.
Yeah, I heard about that. What was his name?
His name is Alfred Pete. I can tell you, I called him on the phone. Fortunately, he answered the telephone. And
how important was he as a mentor for you?
I told him what we were doing. He was about 15 years older than me, and he knew everything about coffee. He had tremendous experience. And I said, oh, you know, we're three guys, we're going to start a coffee company in Seattle. And there was a long silence at the end of the phone. You know, he was sort of thinking about how stupid we were and how bold we were to contact him. And he said, he finally spoke up and he said, you know, Zev, if you're thinking of starting a coffee company in Seattle, I think you better come down here to San Francisco and have a nice long talk with me.
Did you go?
Yeah, I got in the car and drove down there as fast as I could. It's a long distance.
I know.
And it's about 1,000 kilometers. And you know, he became a mentor to us. He helped us avoid problems. He looked on us sort of as his nephews.
Right. Awesome. Let me ask you another question. So here in Concepcion, many entrepreneurs are far from the investors, from the capital city, Santiago, and far from Silicon Valley ecosystems. You started Starbucks in Seattle, which is a big city, but it's not San Francisco, it's not New York, it's not DC. So wasn't the traditional business hub either. What would you say to these founders that are here in these cities who are told that they have to move to Santiago to start their businesses? What would you tell them?
Well, you know, there's many ways to deal with that problem. By the way, at the time, Seattle was really not a very important city in the United States. In 1971, 1970, Microsoft wasn't very much of a powerhouse. The biggest company in the city was the Boeing Airplane Company. You know, sometimes you have to deal with that insistence that you've got to be in the center of things in Chile, that you have to be in Santiago. You know, I would say that some of that can be dealt with in humor.
Yeah, got it.
So, and it can be done in an attack mode. You can say it before they ask. You know, before they say, you know, I'm really interested in what you're doing, but why don't you come to Santiago? Instead, you can say, you know, I'm based in Santiago, and I can get to. It's a wonderful place. The cost of living is lower here. It's a great place to do a startup. We've got a great community here. And, you know, it takes you longer to go to Viña del Mar than it takes me to fly to Santiago.
Yeah, I get it.
And, you know, sometimes, you know, being aggressive about that can really help. And by the way, I have encountered this problem. I do a lot of mentoring of people using Zoom all over the world. And this is a problem in many places.
I know.
You know, even entire countries. South Africa, for example, big booming country.
Away from the
capital, and the people that want to start companies sometimes have to look
here
elsewhere.
In Chile, we're in the bottom of the world, you know?
By the way, there are also more coffee bars around in the area around the Plaza de Independencia in Concepcion. For
you did your research.
Just about anywhere in the world.
Awesome. Okay, let me continue to a more personal question. Personal for me, actually said. So, a while back, I myself, I hit a wall. I had a burnout, I was stressed. It was hard. Many entrepreneurs face that daily, or I don't know. It's part of the process. And I was mentally and physically exhausted. My psychologist, I went to a psychologist, suggested that I could step aside from my role in Políglota. And that was unbearable for me. No, I cannot leave the ship, you know? And I didn't, and I kept working, and everything moved on, and I'm good today. But I want to ask you, because you had a moment that you had to step aside. You decided to leave your baby, Starbucks. So how was that decision? How was the process for you emotionally, especially knowing that you created this? And looking back, how do you feel like not being there for the massive thing that became Starbucks?
Nick, I'm a startup guy. I'm an early stage entrepreneur. I've always been in the early stage of companies, and today I mentor people who are in the early stage of companies. And that's who I am.
You start things.
I have abilities that are really effective in the first few years of a company. However, I do not have the ability to run a large corporation. I just don't. When Starbucks got to 200 employees, I was a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, I realized that I wasn't being as effective as other people in the company.
And it's hard for an entrepreneur to do this, you know, to say, I need to pass the testimony, this seat for somebody else.
Well, you know, my partners and I had a conversation. There were two other founders. And we are still friends, by the way.
Awesome.
And, you know, the discussion went like this. Zev, we've noticed that you're still acting like an entrepreneur, and the company now has 200 employees, you know, big operation, several $1 million in business. Do you think that you could act more like a corporate executive now? And I said, no, I really can't.
Yeah,
that's not me.
Yeah.
And so we worked out a deal, and they purchased my stock, and I went off and did what every entrepreneur does. I started another company. This is, you know, who I am. Actually, quite a few people in the audience in front of you, Nick, are probably like that too. Entrepreneurs tend to be people who don't get along very well in big organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was another part to your question,
Yeah.
which was, how do I feel about having left the company now that it's such a huge success?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a kind of a forward-looking guy. So, you know, I was very happy with the buyout of my equity in Starbucks. I thought it was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. My partners were happy too. They thought it was a good deal for them. So I don't feel bad about the success.
Yeah.
By the way, the same thing happened to my partners. 4 years after I sold, they sold the company to the Starbucks director of sales and marketing, who is Howard Schultz.
Yeah.
And Mr. Schultz is now, you know, a famous guy. He's retired from Starbucks 2 years ago. You know, he's a billionaire, and I think he's wonderful. I am so glad that he helped Starbucks come to Concepcion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Howard Schultz. So let me move forward right now. I want to talk about how do you spot entrepreneurs. You've mentioned that you've mentored hundreds of startups. When you sit down with a founder, when you sit down in a Zoom meeting in a coffee shop, what's the first thing you listen that tells you that this guy might make it? Like, okay, that's the thing that I want to see in an entrepreneur. What's that for you?
Well, Nick, I don't think, my reaction is very similar. What I'm looking for is very similar to what an investor might be looking for. Only I'm going to invest my time, not my money. And, so what I'm about to say applies to many investors also to accelerator programs and to angel investors, to the smaller investors. And if the person I'm talking to, I presume that the person is enthusiastic about what they're doing. That's a given. Every entrepreneur is enthusiastic. But it's really nice if I hear in the conversation some numbers. Like numbers of customers, customer retention percentages, ratios, dollars, or
LTV, CAC, all of that.
I like to hear numbers. And they're frequently missing. I have to tell you that. Okay. First conversations, rarely do I hear numbers, but when I do, I get excited. Okay. And then the next thing, of course, is whether the person is talking about the other people on their team, or if the person is just totally egocentric.
Yeah, there are some entrepreneurs
me, and more me.
Yeah.
I like to hear about the team. It's great if in the first conversation I hear that there's some what we call proof of the concept. So maybe they've done some testing on a small scale. So if it's software, maybe they developed one of the modules and tested it on some real live customers. And finally, there's how are they communicating with me? Are we really having a great conversation? Are they able to convey to me the story of what they're doing? So those are some of the things that I see. I can tell you I have had conversations with hundreds and hundreds of people, and in many countries, thank God we have Zoom, so I can do that. And it's just absolutely fascinating. Everybody is so different.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth. We have a couple of more questions. I want to talk to you about changing perspectives and people's choices and products. So in your time, coffee wasn't exactly cool. Like, people wasn't carrying around coffee mugs or cups. Same with us at Polyglota. Learning English when we started wasn't cool. It wasn't something that I'm learning. This is super fun. It wasn't. It was all based with teachers, classrooms, and everything. So, what would you say to entrepreneurs that are struggling, trying to, pushing new products into the market? Products or services that aren't cool yet. So, what would you say to them?
Well, it's really interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs with platforms and software, I work with a lot of those people, they really believe in their product. They'll say things to me like, when I ask them, well, tell me about your marketing program, they'll say, Mr. Siegl, this product that we're making, that we're developing, is going to sell itself when people see it. They're going to want to buy it. As a matter of fact, we have a very low marketing budget. We're so sure about that. Really? I don't think so. And in what we call cracking a market, breaking into a market, you're the new guy, and everybody else is established. Other companies have the customers that you want.
Absolutely.
What's it going to take to make them change? Well, of course, a better product. We accept that. But there has to be some direct, tangible benefit to the customer. And one of the things that I do often is to try and get a tech entrepreneur to look at life from the point of view of a potential customer who is now using another product that's not as good. What's it going to take to get that man or woman to change their mind?
That will be an early adopter, right?
Usually it's not the features and benefits of the software, it's something else. And usually the best way, well, one of the good
smell,
ways to get
right?
people's
The smell of
attention
the beans
is to show them how it's going to work for them. Or, as a friend of mine said once, show them how they're going to be able to afford the sailboat that they have wanted for their entire lives. That's a direct benefit, a personal benefit. Or maybe the person you're talking to really would like to be able to go to Mexico City on a vacation. Well, maybe if they use your product, they'll save enough money to do that. Sometimes you just have to break it down so that it's not about the features and benefits of the product. It's about something great that's going to happen to the customer.
And sometimes the music, the smell. I read that when you were starting Starbucks, you kind of let people have free samples. You would, like, I don't know, push the beans so people would smell it. And then, this is better coffee. This is, yeah, it's expensive. You have to buy it, but it's much better than you're used to, right? That's part of the thing, like making the client to smell, to feel, to taste a little bit of what you're offering, right?
So there are two parts to that, Nick. In our case, there was a clear, transparent product difference between fresh roasted high-grade coffee and what people were drinking at that time. I mean, there were like two different drinks. So we made a point of giving samples and so they could taste the difference, because otherwise it was just words, oh, this coffee is better, etc. And we would also, we trained our staff to talk about emotional issues, like, when you serve this coffee to your friends, they are going to be really impressed.
Yeah, nice.
People like to do that, and it's important that there is emotional content in marketing, whether you're selling software or coffee beans.
Yeah, awesome. So we're here in Concepcion right now. This is an event. Many people have come. Maybe we're passing around, we're doing networking. So sometimes we have such great conversations. We kind of say, hey, let's catch up, switch numbers, emails, let's have a meeting. And sometimes that never happens. So what would you tell the audience, a quick, a few advices on how to make the best out of these 3 days?
Well, don't wait for people to call you. That's number one.
Yeah.
I can give you an example. It's a personal one.
Okay.
I go to conferences like this one, sometimes in person. And when I do that, I put my contact information on the screen toward the end of my presentation. And then afterwards, and before also, I talk to as many people as I can. I do not get hooked talking to one person that I know already, and that's not why I'm there. I am there to talk to as many people as possible. And I also carry with me something very old-fashioned. I carry a stack of business cards, which have my contact information, because I haven't got time to do it, exchanging by cell phone. I just put it in their hand. And
like in the old good days, right?
I can tell you that in spite of being very aggressive about trying to meet people, I would say that in the days following an event for 1,000 business people, I might hear from 6.
6?
So you should know that because so few people follow up, if you follow up, you will be exceptional.
That's a good one. That's a big one, you know, for the audience to hear. If you follow up, you're gonna be the few people that will follow up with many entrepreneurs, investors, opportunities, all of that.
Nick, I want to say something else that's really important, especially for your audience in Concepcion. So, this is a wonderful time to be an entrepreneur, the 21st century. And why is that? Because we have Zoom and we have LinkedIn. I can't tell you how fabulous the combination of Zoom and LinkedIn is. So if you're an entrepreneur in Concepcion and you know that in Buenos Aires or in Santiago, there's a person that you would really like to talk to, maybe this is a person you would like to get to mentor you a little bit, to help you a little bit, give you some new insight. The way you do it is you contact them through LinkedIn. This is all over the world, by the way, not just in Chile. You contact them through LinkedIn and you tell them a quick story. Hi, we're starting a company here in Concepcion. I really admire what you're doing. By the way, if you are still a student at a university, you mention that. I'm a graduate student at this university because people love university students. And you say, I would like you, if you are willing, to meet with me and my team 2 times for 1 hour each on Zoom. And the first meeting could be next Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Very focused,
you will get
right?
that by mentioning a time. I'm sure some of the people in the audience are now thinking, well, what if he's busy next Thursday at 3 o'clock?
That's right.
And the answer is, that's fine. He will propose a new time. Yeah. He'll say, I can't meet with you on Thursday at 3 o'clock, but I could meet you the following Monday at 1 o'clock. So you're trying to, like reeling in a fish, you're trying to reel in that man or woman to help you. And it works pretty often. And then you have the Zoom meeting. Going to a Zoom meeting is no trouble at all for anybody. And so you can get conversations going, real face-to-face conversations on your screen with just about anybody in the world if you approach them the right way, humbly.
Yeah, absolutely. Seth, have you ever come to South America, Chile?
Yes, I've been to South America, several countries. I've been to Chile 3 times.
3 times? What was your memories? Where did you go?
I've been to Santiago twice, and I have been to Antofagasta.
Antofagasta?
Yeah, so Antofagasta, at the time I went, this was just before COVID, has a really pretty good, very small entrepreneurship community, including some investors. So there was a key person there, it was a woman at the university in the business school, who was trying to get local investors, these were mostly people who had made money one way or another, supplying the mining industry.
Absolutely. Antofagasta is all about mining.
She was doing everything she could to get them to start investing. So I was part of that program. I've been to Chile several times. Also been to Argentina, Colombia, and other places.
Do you have any take or approach about the possibilities for Latin American entrepreneurs? Like any, advantages that you see that we could have so we can scale companies abroad? We could go to the US, we can go to Europe. Do you see any potential specific to Latin Americans?
Well, yes. I'm working with occasionally, about 3 times a year, with a woman she's in Santiago, an attorney. She has a software company.
Awesome. Okay.
And she has been thinking globally from the beginning. It just amazes me. She even went to the trouble to get a partner who lives in the United States. She could have lived without that, but it helped her a lot.
That's bold.
And she thinks nothing of talking to people in Europe or in Asia, trying to make her company appear to be global, and it's working for her. Also, I can tell you a story that is really amazing. I've met several times with a group of students at a small university near Toronto, Canada. And they have a very interesting software that would be useful to university students. It's a platform. So they've tested it at their own university. Then they tested it at 4 more universities in Ontario province, some of which were pretty big. And then one of the partners has family in Italy. So she went to see the family in Italy, and she approached a university there, and the university said yes, that they would test the software there. So now, these 3 founders who are still in the university getting their undergraduate degree in business have a global company. If you're in 2 countries, you're global, right?
Absolutely. Okay, I want to ask the audience for the chance to ask Seb something. So if anybody wants to ask anything, si alguien quiere preguntar algo, en español incluso, pueden subir al escenario mientras hago las 2 últimas preguntas a Seb. Levantan la mano nomás y nos acompañan. O nos acercamos con el micrófono. Ahí hay uno. Alguien quiere preguntar. Someone wants to ask you something. Okay, can we give them another microphone or le doy este? Okay, they're going with the microphone.
Great.
Okay. So please, tu nombre y la pregunta para Seth. Concepción is a city with many entrepreneurs. It's also a university city. Many universities are here. So I don't know if... ¿Qué tal? English o español?
En español.
Okay, en español, but I'm going to translate, okay?
Please, that's fine.
Okay. Mi nombre es Tomás. Quería preguntarle a Seb cómo ve él desde su experiencia el rol de un COO o gerente de operaciones de una empresa y que...
De un COO.
Sí.
De operaciones.
Sí, Chief Operating Officer.
Okay.
¿Y qué recomendaciones tiene para ese rol?
¿Qué tipo de negocio tienes tú?
Tengo una startup. Tenemos 4 empresas dentro de ella. Una es una marca de ropa, un podcast, que es un podcast con video. Tenemos una agencia de marketing digital y estamos desarrollando una consultoría.
Okay, so he's like a serial entrepreneur or making like 4 companies at a time. This is Tomás, and he has this business of a podcast and a clothes company, and he's your COO, right?
Yes.
He's Chief Operation Officer of his company, and he wants your approach on what's the approach that a COO should have in a company? What's the focus that he should have?
Well, typically the COO is a very important person, the man or woman who
One minute. Si alguien más tiene una pregunta, levanta la mano. Okay, go, Seth.
And the COO is not usually the person who approaches investors.
That's the CEO, right? Yeah.
That's the CEO. Do you want to translate?
We have someone that is translating over there. Kika, can you translate for him?
Para la audiencia, lo que está diciendo es que efectivamente el COO no es la persona que sale a buscar platas, pero sí es una persona muy importante dentro de los negocios.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Wonderful. I'm a little skeptical about titles because I've had many people who are doing a startup and they will refer to themselves as the Chief Executive Officer. And my reaction is, Chief Executive Officer of what?
Of what? That's right.
You have to be careful about using titles excessively.
Yeah.
So my guess is that as Chief Operating Officer, Tomás has to do a lot of things because the company probably doesn't have a big support staff.
Okay, perfect. He's getting it. So He's hearing very well, right, Thomas? Okay, we have one more question.
Aquí.
I am Patricia de Bernardi. I have a small business, and I want to ask about the investors in woman small business. How he think about that, and he have experience in Latin American small business woman.
Big question.
Well, does everybody understand what Patricia is really saying? She's being very, very polite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Patricia, I understand the problem. And it's not just in Latin America. Even in the United States, if a woman in business has difficulty raising money, male investors will say yes, 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 and then they won't do it. Women investors can be really tough on other women also. That is the big surprise. So there are ways that people get around this. Sometimes women will have a male partner or a male employee who has some responsibility, so that when they are doing a presentation together, the investors see that it's a man and a woman. It makes them a little more comfortable.
Yeah,
now,
it's
Patricia
really
might
unfair,
not
right?
like it. Patricia might not like that idea, but it sometimes works. But it is a problem, and it's a deeply rooted problem, having to do with millions of years, or hundreds of thousands of years of relationships between men and women. And you know, it's quite a problem. You have to be really good at what you're doing if you're female. Now, Patricia, just so you won't feel bad, it also is a big problem for people who are from minorities, people who are new to the country.
Yeah.
You know, there are many types of entrepreneurs who have trouble raising money.
Yeah.
It is not a magical process. I'd be happy to talk to you about that on Zoom sometime, Patricia.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, one last question over there, and after we have to close because we're running out of time. Okay, please, nombre y pregunta.
Hola, mi nombre es Jaime.
Jaime?
Sí. Me gustaría hacerle una pregunta a Seb en relación a su Starbucks.
Un poco más cerca del micrófono.
Perdón, ¿ahí sí?
Sí.
Bueno. Me gustaría preguntarle si le gustaría invertir en Starbucks móvil en Concepción.
¿Cómo?
Starbucks. En Starbucks móvil en Concepción.
¿Hay un emprendimiento que se llama Starbucks Móvil? ¿O es para entender un poquito del contexto?
Quisiera saber si quisiera tener cafeterías móviles a través de un
ya
carro.
Ya entiendo. Aclarar primero que Seb ya no está en la operación de Starbucks hoy, pero vamos a tomarlo como un caso hipotético. So he's asking about if you'd still be in Starbucks today, okay? Imagine if you're over there. Would you invest or give time to the idea of having mobile stations of Starbucks floating around the city, like mini carts or something? Would you say that will be something that Starbucks would do? Or it's just, I don't know, the couch and everything over there? What would you say to
Jaime, you have a good imagination. Well, Starbucks in many countries has drive-through locations. These are locations where you can order without getting out of your car.
Yeah.
And they're
But
very
he means the
popular.
other way. The coffee shops keeps moving around, you know, like a mini
I
car.
understand what he's asking. You know, in many countries there are, that's a kind of a pop-up idea where the coffee bar comes to you instead of you going to the coffee bar.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work. I cannot tell you. But the way that a company should deal with it, for instance, if Jaime owns a coffee bar, would be to experiment with it in as inexpensive a way as possible to test the idea. There are many coffee companies have a mobile coffee cart that they can put in the back of a small truck or van and take it to an event. And then they set up the coffee cart at the event, which might be an outdoor event, and serve coffee. But of course, they're promoting their brand because they have a banner that with the name of the company, and the cups all have a brand. And it's a very effective way to build recognition of a company, the mobile coffee cart. But yeah, Jaime, I actually have seen, an espresso bar in the back of a vehicle in a few places. It's so marvelous, and people are quite charmed by it. They're attracted to it because there's this element of humor to it, that the coffee bar is coming to me. The question is, how much volume can they do? Could they do 50 transactions in an hour? Maybe not. That's the question.
Awesome. Okay, Seth, one last final question for you, from me. You said you came to Chile a little before the pandemic, right? That was,
yes.
2019. So is it true that some people are trying to push for you to come back to Chile, maybe? So is it true that some people are trying to invite you to Chile later on this year or the after? Are you excited about the possibility?
I would say that's a possibility.
Okay.
I enjoy going to places that I'm not totally familiar with and getting involved in the entrepreneurship community. I was in Mexico 4 weeks ago, and 3 months ago I was in Baku, Azerbaijan. You'd have to look at a map to find out where that is.
I don't know where that is.
And those were both fascinating communities.